weren't at school. So, yeehaw. Anyway, well, we've got lots to go over today. We're going to talk about the listing, getting the listing and the steps in getting the listing. And so we're going to start off. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And just know, I love it when some of my more experienced agents come in, and I do have some. I've got Fred here and Tim on the call today, and Rosie, who's got lots of experience, and a lot of you have had some experience. So share what you know and what you've experienced from your listing appointments. But we're going to start today talking about a pre-listing questions that you can ask people over the phone before you actually go to the appointment, because usually you're going to have a phone conversation before you just go to their house, right? And so if you don't, for some reason, if they text you and say, hey, come over and list my house tomorrow, that would be really incredible. And then you could just take these questions with you there and maybe change up the verbiage a little bit on them. But these pre-qualifying questions help you prepare yourself for the appointment. And one thing that I will stress over and over is that the best listing presentation is you asking them questions. Make it about them, not about you and what you can give them. Sure, we have incredible, awesome things that we can give to our clients, but this has got to be about them and then how some of our things may be helpful to them. And so let's go through these questions, and I want you guys to participate because I'm alone in the room today. You all stayed home, so you've all got to be willing to unmute and participate today. So you should always ask them if it's okay if you ask them questions before you start just asking them questions, okay? So is it okay? Do you have a minute that I could ask you a few questions before we meet and get their okay on that? Okay, first question says, if what I say makes sense when I come tomorrow and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, are you planning to list your home with me when I come? So that's a good question, because then you're going to know how serious they are, right? So what are some of your thoughts on this question? I'll bet it scares some of you. It's a scary thing to ask people. Okay, any thoughts on this one?
I have a thought.
You bet.
I feel like it just kind of makes it so you don't waste your time, because if they're like, no, I'm not going to list with you, like no matter what, then you don't want to waste your time and go out there. And
I love that. I think that's true. Yeah, what's the sense if they say, no, I'm really not going to? Now, if they say, well, I won't list when you come out tomorrow, but my plan is to list in 3 months, then you still go on the appointment, but at least you know. But was that Kelsey that said that?
Oh, this is Beth.
Who made the comment? Oh, Beth. Thanks, Beth. So I think that that's a really good question, because then you can get a sense of what their timing is. And if it's no, I'm never listing my home, then there isn't a lot of sense in it. You know, you can ask them further questions and maybe kind of like Sandy's new buyers that the guy just thinks he's not going to sell. Get a feel for why they feel that way, and maybe some of the things that you can answer to their questions would make them feel more confident in selling. Because some people don't want to sell right now just because they just feel like there's no place for them to go, that there isn't anything to buy, and where would they go if they sold their house? So if that's what they say, you've got to have solutions for them, because if that's their answer to number one, then they're not saying that they're not going to sell. They're just saying, hey, realtor, help me have solutions to this problem that I'm sensing and why I'm feeling not confident in listing my home. Okay?
Yeah, I think a lot of it with him.
Anything? Go ahead, Sandy.
A lot of it is the nostalgia of living in that home for so many years. But his wife, I've already been able to educate. And so she's like, you need to talk to Sandy again and find out why it's important now that we sell when we can. And besides, we're going downsizing to a smaller home. So if anything, there's lots of benefits in that for them as far as the equity that they built up in their home. So
yeah.
I'll
So
get
I
him on
can
board.
tell you're prepared to talk to him about the things that make him nervous. And a lot of times you'll have one spouse that is like, no, I feel at home anywhere. And there's, it's usually opposites, you know, another one that's like, nope, I love my memories. I don't want anything to change. And a lot of people, when they're in my age group or 50 or over, I'm way past that now. It's just, they'll use the excuse, well, my kids, our kids just don't want us. They want us to always stay in this same house, right? And the kids would understand if you said, look, we need to downsize. So just get a feel. And I think this question number 1 really helps you to have a conversation and get a feel for what their plans are on how soon they're going to list. Okay, any other comments on that? Because this is good discussion. All righty, let's go to number 2. Are you planning to interview more than one agent for the job of selling your home? You want to know this up front, so tell me your thoughts on it. Why do you want to know this up front?
So you don't waste your time.
Yeah, well, and it wouldn't be a waste of time, but Tim, how would your approach be different if you knew that you were competing?
Frankly, for me, it wouldn't. I just don't consider.
Hey, good. I like that answer.
I don't consider anybody else competition. So yeah, I go in, well, I just don't. I go in and point out, you know, all of the benefits of everything that we actually have. ERA, I mean, we're second to none. And I mean, because I've already done, I haven't done very many things over the last year, but I've done a wide variety of things. And so I actually have direct experience, and my track record so far has been pretty good with things. And so, you know, in selling, I mean, you know, this last house I sold, I put it on the market and it was under contract in 12 days. And this was over the Christmas weekend too, when we got it. And then, you know, and I know, like the last question, the concerns about, well, where do I go? You know, it's like, well, there's always things popping up. And as long as you're prepared to move quickly and you already know what you guys really want. And that's the most important thing. I think you have to give the client enough time to get to the point where they're like, okay, we know what we want to do on the selling side. What do you want to do on the buying side? And I think it helps us for me, I like to just kind of like ask questions, like you were saying, to draw out and try to help them paint their own picture and create a vision for what do they want? Where do they want to go? Where, you know, what are the most important things to you? Is it the condition of the home, size, a yard, no yard, whatever? You know, and
I love that. So
it helps.
There's a really great, it does help a lot, because what you just said as a point, there's a very, very good book called Never Split the Difference. It's written by an interrogator for, who did he work with? CIA, I think. Anyway, Never Split the Difference, but what he teaches is,
FBI.
you don't, thanks, Tim. So FBI, thank you. You don't, you develop a skill to make them decide that it was their idea of what you were hoping they would decide all along. So you're steering them along with asking them questions that help them come to the same conclusion that you thought was best for them to have in the first place, type of a thing. And that gift of being able to lead a conversation through questioning where they feel like it was their thoughts and their idea in the first place is very helpful. It sounds weird, but it really is successful, and it's one of the most successful ways of questioning, because sometimes, I mean, we know that we can find homes for these people. Their minds might be, there is no place for me to go, I cannot sell, right? Mm-hmm. But through questioning, we can get their minds to change to go, oh, there are possibilities, so maybe I will consider this more. So it's a great, great book. You need to read it. But knowing that they're going to interview more than one agent, I love Tim's answer. It doesn't change. I always do my best. I always, you know, use the same approach that puts them first. And so I think that's good. Although it does kind of help when you know you're competing in the questions you ask, like when are your other appointments? And I want to tell you to not be afraid to talk about that. You said you were going to have other appointments. Maybe this is you're already there and you're doing your presentation. When are those other appointments? Well, I had one yesterday, but and then kind of ask them questions to compare the two. And if they come into suggesting that, you know, what you presented was the best, but then they say, but I have another one tomorrow. I really like what you have to say, but I feel bad canceling that. Well, I used to use the tactic of, I understand that's hard to do, to cancel when you've made an appointment with someone, but how would you feel if I just gave them a call and let them know, let that agent know that you've already decided to list with me, and then you don't have to make that call and take it off of them so that they don't have to do it.
It really
Yeah,
does.
because some people have a huge fear of disappointing others or feeling like they set all the appointments so they have to do it. And so, you know, if you feel like you've made a connection and they're ready to list with you, just offer to cancel those other appointments in their behalf.
I think that's
So
yeah, what you just said right there, I think that's really important, because one thing I always try to convey is like, look, it's important. The most important thing for you is that you work with somebody that you feel comfortable with and that you feel like you can trust, somebody who will take, you know, they'll have your best interests in mind, you know, somebody who's going to be acting on your behalf and executing your initiatives and doing the things for you, and somebody that can be a shield to you and protect you from all these things and also answer all of your questions. And so if I can provide all of these things for you, what other reasons would there be that you wouldn't want to list with me?
Yeah, I love it. Great approach, Tim. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to kind of change the whole feel of this and say, tell me again, where are you moving to? Or if they haven't told you before, what are your plans in moving? Because when you have this conversation, you can find out, like Sandy, she's got these buyers, but guess what? They have a home to sell as well, right? Or you might be talking to them about selling their home and they're going to move to St. George. Now what does that piece of information do for you? They are a referral, right? You can refer them to an agent down in the St. George area. Or unless you want to join on the MLS and all of that in St. George, which you can also do and work that area. If it were me, I would refer them. But so knowing what their plans are and where they're moving to and talking them through with that, if they're moving out of the state, letting them know. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm really happy to let you know that we have an amazing relocation company within our company, and I can help you through that relocation company find the best agent you could possibly have over in that area. Would that be something of interest to you? Okay, so as you're having these conversations, you've got to know what ERA offers and what we have, so that in those questions, you're building your strength as an agent by giving them tools that you have to help them, like relocation. Okay, any other thoughts on asking, where are you moving to? All righty. How soon do you have to be there? Why is that important to know? Seems obvious, but we'll talk about it.
Could be a job change, could be starting school, could be, you know, something like that, that there's a hard line, a hard deadline that they've got to be there for whatever that reason is. That could be the whole impetus.
Quite honestly, I would much rather list a home that has a time deadline than a money thing.
Yep.
So when anybody goes to sell their home, they're selling for one of two reasons: one of two reasons are motivating them. Time, because they've got to be somewhere, or they've found what they want, or money, they want to get a certain amount. And there are some sticklers on their homes that are like, this is what I need to get, and I don't care if it takes me a year, right? So you've got to you have these conversations to find out, what is their motivation? Is it time or is it money? And then you can help change that money thing to time. Like I always say to all of you, find them the property they love, and all of a sudden that listing answer becomes a time issue instead of a money issue when they found someplace they want to be, right? Any other comments or questions on this? If you guys have questions, because a lot of you are new as we're talking about these things, ask them. Ask us. Okay, number 7. You think, why would I ask this? What if they tell me yes? But have you ever thought about selling it yourself? Okay. Why do you want to ask this
over
question?
5 and 6, Diane?
Oh, did I skip 6? I skipped a whole bunch of them.
You went from 4 to 7.
I'm in a huge hurry. Okay, let's go back to 5. When I see you, how much do you want to list your home for? Now, this is good because usually people these days are a little more reasonable, but we still have people that are like, my neighbor down the street, they sold their house for $1 million, and that's what I want, right? So get an idea, because then you know what you're up against with your comparative market analysis, okay? And you'll know how much education you have to do. It's always lovely when their expectations are low, because then you can tell them how much. Tim had that happen recently where he was able to tell them he could get them a lot more than what they thought they could get. He took a lot, but their expectation was 500 and something thousand up to 1.2 million, something like that, Tim?
Yeah, he wanted 500,000, said I would be thrilled if I could get that. And I told him, well, I wouldn't be, because that would be a disservice to you. I won't be happy with under $1 million. And his jaw dropped. He's like, what? No way. I said, oh, absolutely.
Those are the great ones.
Yeah, it was great. They were thrilled. So they walked away with
I think there's a lot of homeowners that don't follow the market. We think everybody does, but there's a lot that don't, and there's a lot that really don't have any idea how much equity they have in their homes. So you want to ask them, how much do you think your home is worth, or how much would you want to list your home for? And I liked Tim's approach. Well, I wouldn't be happy with that. As a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Hey, this is telling you guys something you should be doing. You should be on the MLS every day as part of what you're doing to train as a real estate agent, as a real estate professional, and know homes and know pricing and know days on market and know all of that information. Therefore, I assume you'll list with me at a price that will cause your home to sell, correct? So they're going to give you a number, and you're going to say, I'm the professional, I study this stuff every day. Will you list with me at a price that will cause your home to sell? Or so what price won't you go below? Which is a really good question to ask right at the beginning. What price won't you go below? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, because one thing I like to do too is when I ask them, I say, well, do you have an idea of about how much you think you would like to list the house for? And when they give me a number, whether it's on the money or low or high, whatever, I just say, okay, now how did you come to that number? Why do you think that? And I let him explain that to me. And I say, okay, now forget about the price and that number. Let's get right down to it. The bottom line for you is, how much do you want to walk away from the closing table with in your hand? What will you be happy with? What is that the least amount that you say, if I get at least this much, I'll be thrilled, just like I did with the other guy, you know, for the 500,000 thing. He gave me that, and I was like, so because I think that really helps to bring them down to reality. It's like, well, I want to walk away with $300,000. It's like, well, that's not really realistic. you know, based on.
Because you bought last year and prices
Yeah.
haven't gone up that much,
Exactly.
right?
You better let them know, you know, we can sell, yeah, so we can sell for X amount, but think about it, because what do you owe on the house? What are the other things you're going to end up having to pay off at closing costs, commissions, all that. So really, what is that amount that you, because I want to be able to help you. And if I can't help you, I'm just not the right person, but I want to help you get the maximum value out of your house, whatever, you know, as much as possible. That's what I want to help you get. But we have to be realistic about it too. We can't list for some outrageous number. And I mean, we can, if you want to do that, just list it for $1 million and dig your heels in and just wait, but it may never sell at all. You know,
Yeah.
so really, what
I
can
like
you do
that.
about
I think that's good conversation. I think that because right now we're talking mostly about phone conversation, you're not going to get in that deep until you're sitting with them, right? On the
Right,
phone, you're going
face-to-face.
to try to keep it
Yep.
pretty surface, just so you have an idea of what you're up against. One thing that I miss having, because we're in a fast and furious market, is the ability to do a 2-appointment list. If you can do a 2-appointment list, it's by far the best way to do it. So if you're not competing, or your people are you know, not in this massive hurry, and you have the ability to go to talk to them on the phone, then go to their home, have them show you the home, walk you through, and gather all the information you need to do a good comparative market analysis. Because so many times when you're doing it without seeing the home, and then you go to the home and you go, oh my gosh, their home's so much nicer than the comparables that I picked, or the comps were so much nicer than their home, right? And now you're scrambling to clarify the fact that you did a CMA that's not correct, right? So if there's possibility that you can go to see them in 2 appointments, the first to see their home, maybe have a little bit of discussion, the second to do the market analysis and do the listing papers. That is by far the best way to do it. But if you can't, you can't. And if you have to do a CMA, you need to do it before, but you've got to be asking a lot of questions on this phone conversation if they're expecting you to bring a market analysis to your first appointment, because you're going to have to compare condition, okay, which is hard to do sometimes.
There's
Okay, number
a
6,
happy
how much-
medium to that though, Diane.
Go ahead, Fred.
What you can do, make it part of your Q&A, is ask them about what makes the house special. Ask them about the features in the house. Make notations on that. Make those the caveats that you may be doing a CMA, but have some math prepared ahead of time to say, if you've got this, if you've got this, this would be extra value that this would add to the listing of your home. So
I
even
love
though you
that.
haven't seen it, you've got a pretty fair idea what you're walking into.
That's really good advice, Fred. When you go down and look at, and we'll just talk about it now, number 9 says, would you please describe your home for me? This is a question where you can start saying, you know, how recently did you put a new roof on your house, or how old's your roof? Have you done any remodeling? To try to get an idea if this 1978 home is in 2015 condition, or is it still in 1978 condition, right? So that's going to make a difference. And I think that when you start asking them about, tell me about your home, like Fred said, then you can start getting an idea through questioning about what you're up against in the home. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. How much do you owe on the property? Some people know, some people don't. I think most people have a pretty good idea of how much their current mortgage is and how much they owe. Sometimes you have to remind people that that home equity line of credit is part of how much they owe on the property, right? So if they have a mortgage for $100,000 and they have a home equity line for $100,000, they owe $200,000 on the property. So that's where, as realtors, we guide them. Anything that they've borrowed against the home to get is how much they owe on the property. So narrow them down on that, and then that way you know how much equity they have. Because so many times to people, it's not how much they sell the home for, it's the amount of money they're going to walk away with, like Tim talked about. And if they have a lot of equity that they didn't even realize they had, they're going to be super thrilled that they're walking away with $300,000, right? And so it's really important to know these things and know about how much they owe on the property. So any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, Diane, I have a comment because mine's kind of the opposite, because she's like concerned about other people buying her home. She's like, can I sell my home for 500,000? And I'm thinking, probably. I mean, I'm not going to say for sure, but it's a 3,800 square foot home with a 1/4 acre lot. Like, I'm sure she can. It's right here in Orem. It's a beautiful home. So how would I approach that exactly? Just tell her I want to get her the best amount that I can for.
So
her
she's worried
house.
about overcharging people?
Yeah.
Is that what
Mhm.
you're saying?
Yeah. Like, who gets
tell
that?
her that her neighbors will love her more
That's what I told her. I did tell her
if
that.
she gets a higher amount, because then that increases their value.
Yeah. So I told her, if you love your neighbors, they'll appreciate if we get you a higher value for your home. But
Exactly.
she's like, can
Good.
people afford to buy my house? If I'm like, people are still buying homes at this price, right? Timothy? I mean, seriously, it's possible. So I just need to get her the right
It's really
mindset.
crazy right now, but if you're anywhere between $400,000 and $600,000, you're a bargain. So nuts,
Yes.
but true.
Okay,
So,
thank
any
you.
other comments on that?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Right now it is crazy in order to find a home. And this happened last year with 20 offers on the table. Guess what? I just get across a property in Lehigh. They asked for $434,000. I went to Zillow, found out that this property actually Zillow think that costs $480,000. So certainly they received multiple offers, and the property is under contract for $490,000. So it's crazy that when you're going to lease a property, you just check around. Don't think that price that you're asking for is too much. That is something that the appraisal is going to have probably the last word, and the people that have cash on it. The price, actually, the buyer is the person that put the price of the property. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rosie. I think that's true. One thing that I have found and watched and seen with all of you over the past couple of years as we've been in this wild market is that still, if you price where it should be, according to the comps, more than likely you're going to sell somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000 above. But if you overprice to start, people don't look at it. It's weird that way, but it seems to happen. And so there's a big advantage to the seller who prices where it should be, or maybe 5% over is my top rule as when I sold real estate. But if they'll keep it about where it should be, then more than likely they will come out with more. Okay. But if they start in a crazy zone, they probably won't even get showings to start with. So, alrighty, then we're back down. Have you ever thought about selling it yourself? We finally got there. Sorry. So, okay, some of you who haven't talked, why would you ask? Have you thought about selling it yourself?
Well, you kind of want to know where they've been, if they've tried to sell it already on their own.
Good, because if they've already tried selling it on their own and now they're calling you and talking to you, what's the likelihood, Shari?
Is because they couldn't sell it, or it was too big of
Yeah,
a headache for them.
Yeah, there was a hassle or something happened, and now they're like, I'm tired of this. I'm gonna list it, right?
Right.
And usually if they've thought about selling it on their own, or they've thought about selling it with a discount company, they're going to tell you right at the beginning, and you're going to know that you're competing against those things. Okay. So then you can go in knowing this and keep your approach. It's always good to have a soft approach. Now, even if you know they're going to try to sell it themselves or go with a company that doesn't give very much representation, be soft as you talk to them. Be understanding. Tell them the truth, but do it in a way that isn't offensive, that doesn't offend them, right? Because you don't want to say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, trying to sell your house on your own. You won't make as much, that's just not the right approach. They're going to turn you off right at the beginning, and your interview is going to be over right there, because you're coming with an approach that is like you want to have a fight with them about it. So always come with a good approach that I'm trying to help you, which is what Tim talked about. I want the best for you, and I feel like what I can do for you is the best for you, and here's why, and tell them, okay? Will you help finance the home for the buyer? What's this? Or do you want your cash out? So can they do seller financing? In most cases, sellers don't need to do seller financing and are not in a position. Most of them need their cash so that they can go buy their next home. But we'll have a whole training on seller financing. I think that you can still ask this question, but I think more than likely you're going to get no's, 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 and no's on anything about seller financing right now, because most sellers want their money to buy their next home. Now, just as a quick caveat to that, if I had the money to seller finance somebody, I'd do it, because it's a great way to make money, right? But they can't do it if they have a loan to pay off, okay? Their lender, the seller's lender, will call their loan completely due. You can't have a loan on your home and lend to a new buyer on the equity, because your home has to get paid off, right? So that buyer would have to be putting down at least enough money for that seller to pay off the amount they own to their first mortgage company. So there's a lot of things in that. In most cases, seller financing is not a possibility. I don't know if I'd ask that question on the phone, but would you please describe your home for me? We already talked about that and the reason why it's important to get into those discussions. I'll be sending over a package of information. Will you take a few moments and review it? I am a firm believer in a pre-listing package, okay? I think it's a great idea if you can get it there the day before or even a half a day before. Take a pre-listing package to them and leave it with them. And I'm just gonna be brief on this because we have a whole training on pre-listing packets, but you're gonna put a seller's property condition disclosure in there, already filled out with ERA's information at the top. You can put a copy of the listing agreement so that they can be reviewing it and seeing what it says with all of your information already filled in. You can send them our ERA guide in there so that they can be looking at some of the things that you do. You can put a resume for yourself. You can put a checklist of things you do. Just things that are going to bond them to you before you even go meet with them the first time. And it's very, very effective. And it doesn't hurt if you send it with cookies.
Hey, Diane.
Or chocolate. Yes, sorry.
So I do the same thing. I will send it over and I will tell them, go ahead and feel free to mark it up, circle what questions you might have, because we will do electronic signature. So you don't have to worry about having any marks on your copy. And so that way they can write little notes or questions that they have so then they remember what they really want to ask.
Awesome. I love that. And I have a little you guys know I'm non-competing. I had a letter that I would put in the front explaining what was in the packet and why it was there. Anyway, Michelle Holt, and a lot of you have heard this story before, she had one day that she couldn't deliver. She didn't have time. She had a ton of meetings. She couldn't get the pre-listing packet over to their house. She called Uber. She had Uber deliver it. So, hey, you can get these done there's a way to get pre-listing packets to people's homes. So they're a very, very good idea if you have time to do that and send it off in advance. And then on the phone, you can say, I'll be sending over a package of information. Will you take a few moments and review it? Then ask them, do you have any questions you want to ask me before our appointment? So you can know that their questions are important for you. And this one, so you know our meeting should only take between 5 and 25 minutes. Is that okay? I never could do a listing presentation in 5 to 25 minutes, but I think people for the most part have a 1 hour. You guys have a 1 hour. I'm looking at the clock constantly. I know it's 10:40 because when I'm teaching you guys, when that 1 hour hits, your cell phones come out, your eyes glaze over, you're done with the meeting. And most of our clients are the same way. So
You are
get
such
it
a
so that
mom.
you
You
can
get
keep
us
it
so
short.
well.
I've done this a while, Sandy. So whatever you do, try to keep it all within an hour's time at the very most. So, and then verify your meeting with them, okay? So I emailed this out to all of you this morning, so you should have it in your emails. Okay, we're going to go to the ERA guide. I just want to show you guys really quick, those of you who are new, when you go into Artie, when you log into Artie, and you come down to File Share, click on it, and you come into Marketing Resources, and the ERA guide is right here in the Marketing Resources. Okay, so I don't think I emailed that out to you guys. Maybe I did. Anyway, I'm going to pull it up. This is the ERA guide. So here's the thing about the guide. I don't want you guys taking the things that we talk about in the guide and then just going, and I'm good at this, you guys know, because most of you have met with me when I hired you, and I am like a fire hose. And I would recommend you don't fire hose these people. Just ask them what's important to them and use the guide to answer those questions. So I'm going to go through the guide. We're going to talk about the things in here so that you understand what ERA and and you should come up with your own things in addition to this, but what we have that will help them in getting their home listed and sold, okay? So I love this. Some consider selling real estate an individual effort. We believe it's a team sport. So we're a team here, sellers and me, and we're going to work together to get this done in a really great seamless way for you. And then when we get buyers and their agent, they're going to become part of this team to get this effort, to get this sold. There's a little table of contents here. Some people, they might say, well, tell me about ERA. So if they have questions about ERA, you can talk about it. So here's some facts about ERA in the guide, about our production, and there's 2,000, I don't have my glasses on, 350 affiliated offices throughout the world. There's over 300 in the United States. ERA Brokers Consolidated is one of those 23,050 franchises. But our one Brokers Consolidated franchise has soon to be 14 when Payson opens in a few months, soon to be 14 locations along the Wasatch Front down through Las Vegas. So if they wonder if we are a sizable company, a lot of people, that's important to them, that they know that they're with a reputable company who has a lot of support behind them. So you can explain those things. Now I'm going to scroll down really, here's some awards if that's important to them. If it's not, don't go through them. But if they want to know, if we are out there in the community, if we've received awards, if we stand out as a real estate company, then you can go through this is our timeline when we started, 1978. We became an affiliate in 82 is when the 5 firms came together down in St. George and created the one Brokers Consolidated under the ERA franchise. And you can go through that if they have questions about ERA. Okay, now I'm going to go down clear to the bottom of the guide really quick, because I think it's at the bottom, it goes into ERA stuff again. Maybe not, maybe that's it. I think I'm thinking about my recruiting one. Okay, so anyway, you can show them those things to tell them about ERA if they wonder about it. Okay, let's talk about marketing that we do. Okay, who can tell me, what marketing does ERA Brokers Consolidated do to support you as agents for our listings? I hope you guys all know.
They do Facebook
Okay.
boosts for us.
Okay, we boost on social media, Facebook and Instagram, from the day of list till the day of close. We don't stop when it goes under contract because, and I'm going to talk to you like you're the seller, because things happen in a transaction. And if that buyer fell out, we don't want to have stopped our marketing that we're doing to have to start that over again, because that's a process. So we will continue to boost until the day of closing of your property. All right, what else do we do?
Professional photography for every single listing, along with 3D
Okay.
work that we offer.
Wonderful, professional photography. And quite honestly, you guys don't even have to say it's ERA. I mean, here it kind of shows it, but I mean, sit down with those people and say, I love your home and I want to do the best job that I can for you. And so I want to be sure that professional photography is done on your home. We can get that scheduled. I'll help you in the process of getting your home ready for those photographers to come. Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I tell them I want
And
to
then a lot of,
showcase their home.
that's right, it will showcase your home. And there's statistics here under the professional photography that tell them that their home will sell for more money and more quickly with these things, and especially under the Matterport. A lot of people have not seen a Matterport tour. So when you go to the listing appointment, make sure that you have a laptop with you that you can bring up a Matterport tour to show them. You're going to have to use your phone's hotspot so that you can get into that 3D tour. And right here, there's a tour that you can go into to show them what it looks like so that they understand. And then again, they're going to get super excited that you're going to do something like this for them in their home, right? And so you'll explain these to them. Okay, what else do we do to market?
We syndicate over to so many websites I don't have in front of me. So what
Over
is it?
100,000.
100,000.
Over
Yep.
100,000 websites
Yeah.
we syndicate to. It's right here.
Yep.
90 million viewers monthly on our listings. So
You know,
who wouldn't
that-
want their listing?
That is a big thing, because every time I go into listing presentation, when you say that, they are like blown away. They're like, really? Well, the other brokers I've talked to, they only do it to certain websites. So they're pretty impressed with this. So
Yeah.
It really is. And quite frankly, when I explain it to you guys, when I'm hiring, I'm like, you know what? I am not super technological. I don't know how they do it, but I can tell you, I guarantee you that it is syndicating to over 100,000 websites. And isn't that something that you want when you're trying to get your home out to as many people as possible? Right? So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's great, that syndication.
I would suggest, yeah, and really emphasize Artie. Tell them about Artie that we have. We've got our own,
Okay.
individual transaction management platform, a portal. Everyone gets in. You'll have access 24/7 to see all of the documentation, at what stages we're in. Everyone who's a player, that team we build is involved with the title company and the lender and everybody. All that stuff's in there. And also, especially the way that we do this, each individual listing, there's a website that is built and generated. It has its very own website, your property listing. So, and that's what
I love that. So Tim, I agree with on the marketing side, letting them know that they're going to have, their property will have its own website is huge. And explaining that it is through the Artie management
the platform.
transaction platform, that all of this is done for their property. Now, and Artie is a really great, because I can tell you, when you say to a seller, tell me what's the most important to you. And you need to say that right at the beginning. What's the most important thing to you with a real estate agent? Now, if they're first-time sellers, they might not know. They might say, I'm not really sure what should be most important. But most of them have a good idea. And I can tell you that their number one thing in almost every case is going to be communication, knowing what's happening with my listing, okay? Because if any of them have had a bad experience before, that bad experience is going to be because they were not communicated with. So you need to know Artie very well to talk about that. And we'll get into the Artie discussion more in just a minute, in 10 minutes. I'm going to keep it in 10 minutes. But this talks about being online and the websites that the Artie platform creates for their listing. And I'm just going to tell you this real quick because I forget to do this, is that if you know you're going to go on a listing presentation, come into the office in advance. First, get in the Artie platform and set up your listing as a coming soon listing, okay? Put in as much information as you can, tag it coming soon, and those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you will. I'll show it to you another time. But tag it as a coming soon, and then come in here and ask Clarissa to make you a sign writer that you can take to your listing appointment, because that sign writer has a number that when people text it will take them right to the website that you've developed on their property. So if you have started setting up that property, go take a picture of the front of the house and then put it into Artie, put as much information as you know at this point about that property, get your text writer, and then hand that text writer to them at the listing and say, why don't you text this number to 39200, and they'll do it. And guess what? Their phone's going to pop up a website for their property that you already created for them. And you're just barely going to the listing appointment, and you've already made a website for their property. You're going to say, is this something that you want? Oh, yes, you bet it's something they want. So take the time, if you know in advance, to get that set up as a coming soon in the Artie platform and get the text writer and take it to them so that they can see what's happening. So all of a sudden they're looking at their phone and there's their property. You've already set up a website. And then you can say, well, guess what I just got on my phone? I just got notified that you inquired on this property through the text writer. And now I can, and this is what will happen with anybody who texts this, and then I can follow up with them on your home. And that is super impressive to them, that you've gone to the listing appointment, they've already got a website, and you're showing it to them, and you're showing them the communication. Make sure they understand about our smart signs, okay? So smart signs, our signs are different than anybody else's. Why? Who can tell me why they are different, even though they look the same? Why are they different? Sandy, why are they different?
Because they're reflective, right? So when someone's in front of
Okay,
your
they're
house, you're aware
reflective.
that someone can just like, you'll know that number that comes through is for someone looking at your listing.
Okay, so they're reflective. Great, that's
Mhm.
one reason. Why else are they smart, Shari? Were you gonna say something?
That's what I was gonna say. Plus also we have the text writer on the top, so.
Okay, the
Mhm.
phone number on all of your signs, all of you who have picked up signs, is the phone number on your sign your cell phone number? No, it's not. It's a proprietary phone number that only rings to your cell phone number, no one else's. Now you're going to explain it just like this to your sellers. The sign in your yard will have a proprietary phone number on it, so that when anybody calls me on your property, my phone will text me before it even rings, so that I know that I'm getting a sign call, and I will know to answer my phone for your sign. Has anybody else told you that they have that available for you? Okay. Text writer, you've got a phone number just for you, only rings to your cell phone number. It notifies you by text when they call the phone number on the sign before your phone even rings that you're getting a sign call. The other thing is it captures their name and phone number off their sign and puts it into a leads folder in your ARDI system. So if for some reason you weren't able to answer that call, you can go back, and when you go into ARDI under your leads, it's going to tell you, give you their name and number so you can follow back with them. Do you think those are things that not only help you, but that your sellers are going to want? These are things that nobody else has that you can tell them about if these things are important to them. Like I said, don't kill them over with a fire hose, but if it's important to them, these are things that you should tell them about, and you have to know about them. Beth, if the phone number on your sign is your cell phone number, they were done incorrectly and we need to redo them, okay? Because they shouldn't have been. Should have been done with a proprietary phone number. So we need to reorder for you. All right, we have a full marketing department that'll create any marketing that you want on their listing, okay? So make sure that if it's important to them, if the marketing part is super important to them, because the times that some of this stuff can be brought out is they might say something to you like, all the agents just do the same things. You're going to put my home on the MLS and wait for people to call, and everybody pretty much markets the same way, don't they? Well, do they, after what we've just talked about? Does everybody do these marketing things that we've just talked about? No, they don't. And so you need to know these things so that you can answer their questions and stand out, okay? So when you talk about communication with them, you need to talk about the ARDI platform. This little graph shows where you put their listing. You put it in the MLS, and the MLS sends it out to all the other real estate companies, right? Because that's the purpose of the MLS, is to let all the other realtors in the area know about their listing. And then it goes into the ARDI platform where it goes to over 100,000 websites, okay? Now, this is where you get in if communication is big to them, talking to them about ARDI and letting them know how this platform communicates with them, that they will be notified every time anything happens on their transaction by text or email, whichever they prefer. They will be notified immediately with what you're doing for them on their property. Okay, and now that we have those awesome checklists in there, everything that's on your checklist gets notified to them as well. So it's really, really great. So I don't have time today to go into an ARDI training on this, but just let them know that this is a communication platform that raised the national satisfaction rate is 74%. ERA Brokers Consolidated satisfaction rate is 96.5%. Once we started the ARDI, because of the communication that it brings to our clients, that's huge, okay? Okay, I just want to go over some other things. Technology, research. If you're talking to somebody who loves numbers and loves research, you need to take our research publications that the Walters do twice a year on residential and commercial with you, so that you have them in case you have somebody who loves numbers, okay? You don't have to hit on it much, but if it's somebody who really loves numbers, that's something you should talk to them about, okay? This is all the counties that we currently serve, if there's any questions on that. Our goal is to transform real estate education into something that agents, that's not really for them. Okay, then you're going to want, here is distinctive properties. So distinctive properties, for your listings to qualify for distinctive properties, who can tell me what the qualifying factors are for distinctive properties?
They have to be in the top 10% price range
Of
in
their
the market.
zip code. Yeah, of their zip code. So top 10% price range of the zip code they live in, okay, to be in distinctive properties. So you guys can look that up. Also in leverage, if you go into the distinctive properties section of leverage, there's actually a little calculator where you can just put the zip code in and it'll tell you what that number is, okay? So distinctive properties are for marketing higher priced homes. And there are a lot of people that have nice, higher priced homes that expect to get special marketing done for them. So you guys, because we don't have time to go into detail, you need to get the ERA guide and open it up and read through distinctive properties to be able to tell them all of the extra marketing things that happen with their property because they are in the top 10% of the area that their home is located in. Okay? Okay, this talks about our sign writers and things like that. This is just other support things. I want to go down here. Some of you may not even know we have this. This talks about our relocation company. We have a farm and ranch group at ERA Brokers Consolidated. So Julie, Shari, I know you're doing stuff out in rural. Any of you who are doing rural, or any of you who know cowboys that live in the city but have rural property, farm and ranch, not all of our agents are in it. It runs from our commercial division. But if you have somebody that is looking for a farm or ranch or that wants to list one, you can refer them to our farm and ranch group so that they're getting the best possible support, agent support on farm and ranch properties, okay? If you don't know this, then when you meet that cowboy, you won't know to tell him we have farm and ranch, right? So this is why you need to know this. We are committed to our community. We do a lot of community service. If you're talking to somebody who that's important to, you may want to talk about the fact that ERA Brokers Consolidated is committed to community service. Okay? Okay, that is the ERA guide. I'm over 1 minute. Are your eyes glazed over? Go through the guide. Next Monday, in fact, I really want you to go through the guide really well before next Monday, because next Monday for Velocity, we're going to take these things that ERA gives to you as agents to use to market your properties, therefore we're giving them to your clients. We're going to teach you how to present those offers in a way that make them of value to your clients. So, any questions before we go? Awesome. Okay, have a great day. Call me if you have any questions.
Thanks, Diane.
Bye, guys.
Bye.